And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we are discussing Dexter New Blood, episode number 9, The Family Business. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment, and full spoilers for this episode as normal with this channel. So yeah, let's jump into just about everything we wanted and that we've talked about in the last several weeks appeared in this episode, whether it was the fate of Kurt Caldwell, the trophies. We were so puzzled about the trophies. We're like, why is he embalming these women? What's the story with that? What's going to happen with Molly Park? Is Dexter going to talk to Harrison about, what it is he does? Is he going to bring him in on it? All of these things played out in this one episode, making it, in my opinion, the best episode of the season, for me at least. Um, Even the flashback with Wiggles the clown was fantastic. But going into let's jump to the kill. Kurt is gone now. Rest in peace. A formidable enemy to Dexter, I think. He's one of the better ones, I would say. I really enjoyed the character. But with him gone now, um, finding out about the trophies, just what are your guys' thoughts on that and Harrison's reaction to how all that played out?
It's almost what we've been saying for a while as to how we think it's going to happen and how it's going to go down, because Harrison immediately understanding, Dexter finally coming forward with everything, even though, Deb, which is, I guess, the yin to his yang or something, I don't know, the little devil on his shoulder trying to tell him, hey, don't do that, don't do that. He does it anyway. And it seems as though their relationship got stronger because of it. But, his in the back of his head, which is the same fear that he has, that Deb has, is that everybody who gets close to him dies. So now Harrison is on the same page as him. He's real close to him again. So I'm not sure that he is going to feel all that great about what's getting ready to happen. However, on the same note, uh, it does appear that Dexter may finally go to jail, because I think that, and I said this in the last episode, that he may turn himself in to spare, Harrison and everybody else. But my hope, and it's a hope that I've said for a couple episodes now, is that they do next season, and it is like a carryover. It is a new blood Dexter, but Dexter is now Harry, but he's able to be alive, be Harry, and do it from prison.
Yeah, I thought that that's an interesting angle too. Potentially, uh, and like you said, it's good to see a lot of what this show's been leading up to. Uh, Finally, just kind of pan out. With Harrison knowing and everything, and it was a good way to build that because there was a lot of tension. Like, is he going to tell him outright? Like I think as the audience, we could all tell that he's like, okay, yeah, the only thing that's going to fix this whole thing with Harrison is if you tell him everything, because there's a lot he doesn't understand about himself. But looking at it from Dexter's perspective, obviously, like it's a huge secret, and it's like, and how would you tell somebody, that you do what Dexter does, even if it is Harrison's situation? Like, that's him taking a huge risk, and but now that we see that Harrison is very much Dexter, and the authorities, uh, well, not so much the authority, well, Angela herself, and I guess potentially the authorities, are just kind of onto what's up with Dexter. Like, I am curious about whether they'll find out about Dexter, and if, like Spencer said, in order to cover up the evidence of what Harrison's done, Dexter will say, "No, that was me." And if that's the case, will this show continue with Harrison in this town?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny on a not as extreme note, but Kurt sort of did what Trinity did in that Dexter thought, "I got you," kills him, but Trinity, left a surprise for Dexter. He had killed Rita. Kurt, I'm assuming it was Kurt, left that note to the Angela. And so, that sort of she was already convinced, or pretty convinced, at least it appeared, that Dexter was the Bay Harbor butcher, or potentially. But now with sort of the Matt thing, the evidence, I mean, it's just looking really bad for Dexter in terms of I don't know that he gets away with all this. Yeah, that's probably the biggest question about the next episode.
I have.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I have a slight thing. It doesn't mean that she's going to suspect Dexter less, but he left a note on the bed. I'm assuming for Molly Park's bed. If she looks at the handwriting and notices the same note that says that Dexter killed Matt, at what point is she going to make those notes appear as though they're both from Dexter, or is she going to realize that they're both from Kurt, which now she can't really interrogate Kurt because he's dead. So she may feel like all these people, all these trophies are Dexter's instead of Kurt's.
Yeah, it could be that sort of thing, and it would be hard to prove. Like does she have enough evidence to prove that it's Dexter? Because yeah, she took photos of like some syringe marks, and she knows that Dexter bought this sedative for his goat, but while there are threads there, they're loose enough that he could get away with it, and maybe
yeah, I agree completely. That's the question is, even if she definitively feels, yeah, it's him, I don't know that she has evidence where she could take him down. But yeah, as far as the trophy room is going to be a real, how's that going to play out? When if it's seen, yeah, how I mean, my God, how is that going to go? I mean, that the amount of women in there, this would go down as like the greatest, the biggest serial killer thing of all time. You know what I mean? In that town. So, oh shit. I kept wondering where Oil Guy was. He's still been gone. Could you think he could want to cover something like that up? If it could bring bad press or publicity to his town. He's literally been gone. He was real prominent for the first few episodes, and then he has been gone the entire time.
That would make a lot of sense if he'd want to cover something up like that up. Like you said, 'cause he has a lot of, business vested in this town. So, like I said, he wouldn't want that to get out. And he seems like a guy that cares about his profits above all else. And
I
and
don't
and
know. Go ahead, finish, Larry. My bad.
well, all I was going to say was that also it may be the sort of thing, like you said, once that trophy room is discovered, does Angela even want to follow up on this, or when she finds out what Kurt did and just sees the horror of it for herself, does she decide to drop it, or kind of go, oops, I don't think I had enough evidence for this, I guess I judged you wrong?
Well, I think that I was trying not to burp in the phone. The billionaire oil dude, I think that he would relish in this kind of, I don't know, publicity, because then all the townspeople hate him. The Indians, the Native Americans hate him. All these people are very much against him for what he's doing in that area. If now all of a sudden they have something else to focus on, I think that he might relish in this, because if he is in any way tied to any of it, or if he knew any of it and covered it up, if they're able to kind of point the finger in a different direction other than at him, he might, jump on it and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It definitely. When I was watching the episode, I kept thinking about him. I was like, is he ever going to come back into the show? What was the point of his character? And then I started, and when I really saw the trophy room, I was like, man, if this gets out, this would be the biggest story in criminal justice of all time within the context of the Dexter series. There's nothing like that.
Well,
And so I was like, that's a big deal. And yeah, how is it going to affect them, that town, that all
well, yeah, they have this vault. They have a famous podcaster that's in this vault as well.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, I guess it depends. It could go either. It really depends on like whether he pulls a lot of his business from outside the town, or if I mean not business, but a lot of his workers from outside the town, or if it's a matter of, the people that work for him were born there and will die there and are roughly stuck in that town. Because if he has to pull workers, convince people to move there to work for him, he might want to cover that up.
Depends on, yeah, if he has money tied to Kurt,
That
because
too.
think of the lawsuits that would start. Just thinking of they would be suing the estate, the Caldwell estate, yeah, it'd be, there's a lot that would go down if you discovered something like that in any town. And they only have one episode, so yeah, it's curious to how they're going to handle it.
Well, and if they are leaving any loose threads to go into another season, perhaps even Spencer is has some there's a lot of validity to what he's saying, because that'd be a great loose thread. If there's hints that he's up to something more suspicious, and what Kurt's done, takes a lot of heat off of him, takes a lot of suspicion off of him for his things, because he said a lot of things very early on that made us think that he might be the killer. We weren't sure whether it was him or Kurt, or but because it seemed like an older white guy, with some resources. But if he's up to something, and just that threat that he made to the police chief's daughter, also, this would be a good way to deflect and say, oh, well, some of those things I did, that was probably Kurt too.
What did anybody else get like a big big vibe? You watch that?
As in the movie Big?
Yeah, like
Mm-mm.
the casings, like with the people.
Oh,
When it first turned the
Oh,
corner, all you could see was the top half, and I started dying laughing. Like I couldn't help it. Like immediately, I was like, "Oh shit!"
like it
And
just
it was funny because when they went down there, because we kept, we've been talking about it for weeks, like, whoa, what is he doing with them? And then when we saw them, I was like, oh, it lived up to the hype. You know what I mean? Because I was like, that's insane. Why would he be preserving them? What is he doing with them? There's got to be some kind of horrible, grisly setup. And in fact, there was. Jumping into that to the Molly Park, that was sort of the big sort of twist or surprise that holy shit, he got her. And she's in the collection. We were speculating last. I think Spencer, you were the one that was like, "Yeah, I don't think this is going to go well for her." It didn't. Now, I mean, she's immortalized in her, as far as her podcast is concerned. She'll go down as a legend. But damn, that's
which will
brutal.
also draw a lot of attention to that town potentially. Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, that's a brutal way to go. But
yeah, because while I was watching it, it's all I could think of was how many episodes is she in, and the amount of episodes she had already been in, according to IMDb. I was like, she can't be in the last episode. So unless they reference her or say something, I said, I don't think she made it, but I was not anticipating her being in there. And then when they showed her, it was just great that they tied that into the story.
Even if Dexter goes down. So let's go into that. So we reestablished that no, in fact, Audrey is still into Harrison, and that relationship, seems to be okay. Um, Angela, she's terrified that Dexter is a serial killer, and by the end of it, she seems to have drawn her conclusions that she thinks he is. Even if Dexter goes down, uh, Harrison won't. I don't think. Because Dexter's not going to be like, yeah, Harrison was there when I, killed Kurt.
right.
So in other words, you guys, let's say Dexter was to go to prison or dies in some way, you could continue with Harrison. Is Harrison going to stay in this town? Is he going to stay with Audrey? Like, is that going to be the twist at the end where the question is Harrison going to, continue his father's legacy and, pick up where he left off? I think that's where they're heading with this, unless they throw a curveball and there's something completely different that we haven't mentioned. The ratings are very high for the show. This is a huge hit for Showtime. So I would hope that they built it in a way where it'll continue on, and that seems like a possible way that they could.
Like, or is he gonna like potentially Incredible Hulk this shit like in the TV show and just kind of go from town to town?
I'd be into that.
Yeah, because he mentioned he was a drifter prior to meeting up with Dexter, so that may be the new angle that you're not in one set location, you're somewhere different every season.
That'd be cool. Kind of Fargo it up.
Yeah.
Harrison out there. uh, do you think Dexter's gonna make it out of this?
I think it's a coin toss at this point.
Yeah,
It's hard to say.
he's gotten out of the. He's been in a jam like this before, and he always seems to get out of it. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, she has this evidence, but it doesn't doesn't necessarily matter. Um, he's firing on all cylinders in this episode. So it does suck that it's like, yeah, this could be the end of the character. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was so short lived. They did rectify everybody's bad feelings about the end of Dexter, the original series, which I didn't hate, but this was so much better that any slight animosity I felt towards it has vaporized because it was so good. But like you said, I do feel it would be a wasted opportunity to not to follow Harrison a little bit further.
Yeah, and if he does survive, and if they do stay in that town, I think they set things up in a way where that could be interesting because now, Angela is suspicious of him, and they're not dating anymore, but he's likely dating the bartender at the local bar, and perhaps even picking up information from that bar, and is the entire police force in that area just suspicious of him the whole town and the whole time, and if that's the case, would he decide to stick around? Is that something that Dexter would do?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting. His home was burned down in the episode, and which sets up them having to go stay with the bishops. And we saw, if you watch the trailer, obviously it shows that it seems as if there's a couple shots that look like Dexter's being held. Um, so we know she has some evidence. What exactly how that's all going to unfold, I don't know, but it and then we get the shot of Dexter running. So it's like it doesn't look like it's going to go well for Dexter. But as I pointed out before, there have been several seasons where you're like, oh, everything's going to shit, and he figured it out, or something worked out in the end. The biggest question is Harrison. I think going into this series, I wasn't sure if okay, we got this young guy, this young actor. It's like, is he going to be able to pull it off? But by this point, hell, before this point, I'm like, yeah, I think he could carry a show. I think he's capable.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely think he could carry the show on his own. And we've had all the building blocks we need for this show to continue starring Harrison. Uh, like I mentioned at the truck shop, even with him suiting up to hose down the truck and everything, that could be his gear. Like Dexter does all his prep work and everything. You have roughly the same premise, but with a new character with a different set of skills, and yet armed with the knowledge of the previous character as well. And because they've established that, and they've established also that Harrison is more tech savvy, which if he decides to travel outside of town to do what he does, that also you know makes sense there too, because he would potentially be actively looking these people up.
Hasn't a lot of these episodes, including several scenes in this one, felt like a Batman Begins story for
Yes, definitely.
Harrison? Even him using the drone, or just Dexter giving him a few little pointers about this and that, and just he's been learning. Like everything he's observing and learning. And Dexter, even when he was chopping up Kurt, explaining why all the plastic and just sort of the method of how it all works. So yeah, it's almost like an origin story.
Right. Yeah, it definitely feels like that. And and he can fight and everything. We know that, and he's learned how to shoot, and so yeah, all the building blocks are there.
Well, I think they spent it wasn't a great deal of time, but it was, like you guys said, origin story. They spent enough time to where even if Dexter goes away, I think even if he died, it would end up being like a Harry kind of thing where he would come back, hopefully, because he's already said that he loved the character and how easy it was to slip back into the role. So I don't think that he would be opposed to coming back. But Harrison, I think if he was to carry on the role, whether Dexter's there or not, this was basically like a quick how-to. And I think that even if, Michael C. Hall didn't come back, they could basically reference this episode in flashbacks. Harrison's like, all right, what should I do? And then they could re-reference the episode. And he's like going through his brain how to, lay down the plastic and where to do this, why to do this. So they could reference parts of this season to kind of go back and help him remember how to cover his crimes.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It almost feel, especially like Larry, you pointed out the shooting thing. He's a natural shot, and he was just showing all these sort of skills he has. It feels like they're setting up for another season with the character. Like, yeah, this is his origin. We're setting him up to be this vigilante. You could have some kind of, maybe he goes to become a cop. He's like, yeah, I want to be a cop, but he's really doing other stuff. Or I like the whole just wandering around, traveling. You know, and we also he explained that some of his traveling was he was trying to hunt down the Trinity killer. That was pretty interesting. And Dexter's like, I already got him. Don't worry. Any other thoughts on? We sort of brushed over it a little bit, but Kurt Caldwell, the character. I mean, hell of hell of a performance, all the way down to the end. I love when his whole master plan of burning down the cabin, waiting for them to run out and sniping them, and realize they went into his lair. Everything he did, and I love him, being irritated at Dexter, when Dexter was explaining his code and why he killed Matt. He's like, really? That's it? And then him even justifying his actions, like, no, I saved them, and explaining sort of the psychology of why he was doing what he was doing, and the purpose, all the way down to his, his death. Yeah, great villain, I thought.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we've had like the angle that we've had with this character with a lot of the others. Dexter killed his son, and not only that, but that this character is a prominent figure in this community and has a lot of resources, which he definitely used to mess with Dexter. He definitely uses money to his advantage, and like in some of the shadier truckers that he hired and everything. And I think that was an interesting angle to see how Dexter handles someone with not only the same mentality that he kind of has, but is doing it for clearly very different reasons. But but also with far more resources than he could ever have.
Well, and I think the Trinity Killer, you had John Lithgow, who is basically the best villain previously in Dexter, but although I don't think Kurt was as good, I think the ending for Kurt was better than the ending for the Trinity Killer, even with the setup with Rita dying and everything. I think that was very calculated and very good as far as creating a villain. But Kurt's lair, like that was evil. I want to say not serial killer because clearly he's a serial killer, but on like the level of, I don't know, just pure evil, his seems to rank a lot higher than that of the Trinity Killers. And I think Trinity was a better actor. It was better portrayed. The outcome of it had more of an effect on, Harrison and Dexter and everybody else. But Kurt, to me, is number two, but only because of the calculation that it took with Trinity. He was very smart. He was able to do this stuff. And Kurt was just had a lot of money and was very resourceful.
Kurt
and,
was he was Trinity is top shelf as far as villains of the series, but Kurt was worthy. That was another thing. Go, okay, if you're going to bring the show back and you're going to take the time to do another 10 episode series, you better have a worthy opponent for Dexter. And I felt Kurt was. I felt that they took the time to develop a character that was interesting and that worked very well for the story. Something interesting between Kurt and Trinity that was similar was they were sort of like liked. You know, they were, oh, they're good guys, and they're, you know, they have families, and people, you know, they had that persona that they have in front. Was really well done. But yeah, no, yeah, Kurt, they were both sick as hell, and that trophy room, yeah, it lived up to the hype.
Yeah,
Well,
and
go ahead, Larry.
well, I was just gonna say, like, speaking of the trophy room, like we're talking about links to the other rich guy, you know, the oil man or whatever. Like, you know, like if this is the guy that owns like you know, like your energy companies in this area, like, you know, that does make me wonder if they're going to continue in this town. Like, wouldn't this guy take notice of Kurt and how much fuel Kurt needs? You know, that it's like Kurt's buying because he's got to power all these generators and everything.
It does seem like we know that he has people that work for him, but his operation is pretty pretty insane in terms of, you're right. I was thinking that too. I was like, how the hell did he build all this shit and nobody knows about it? You know, it almost feels like he would have some kind of outside help, but I don't know. You know, I mean, it's the same with Batman. You're like, how the fuck did he do? Him and Alfred built the Batcave.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
and
you know, it's like, you know,
but even to explain that, they started bringing in characters like, you know, your Lucius Foxes and
yes,
whatnot. So
yes,
it
exactly.
make it makes it that maybe, just maybe, there's another person involved to some degree.
Maybe that trophy room was for someone else.
It could
Maybe
be.
Kurt bagged them, but maybe they were also for, yeah. I don't know.
It could well be, or he could have been very well aware of Kurt's activities and, you know, what he says to Audrey. That's the daughter's name, correct? Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Oh, I actually got it right for once. Like, but yeah, what he said to Audrey makes it seems like maybe he knows a little bit more. You know, because when he asked her if she wants a ride and everything, she's like, no. He's like, yeah, yeah, you kids these days, you know, and seems to give her a lecture about being immoral. He's like, yeah, but you'll find out soon. He may have been referencing Kurt, you know, saying that maybe he's in the know to some degree. And and maybe, you know, that note, in fact, if that's the case, if he's involved to some capacity, perhaps even that note wasn't sent by Kurt. Maybe that note was sent after Kurt died, you know, by the oil guy.
Yeah, there's so many variables and so many things that have yet to be fully answered yet that I am extremely curious and as to how they will either carry it on or end it. And I think that given the response to this episode and the ratings and everything else, that I believe personally that this will carry on further. Um, and just because it's not only is it a great show, it's done well ratings wise. It was well written, and it's hard for me to believe that I know the original 4 seasons. That's the guy who put this season together, but it's hard for me to believe that they didn't think of more in store for Harrison, and I would love to see it.
well, to call it New Blood, I mean, that alone feels like a setup for something more. I mean, they could have called it, you know, some kind of a term that meant ending, or, you know, um, final chapter or whatever. But they said New Blood, you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and that really makes me think that, you know, if we're talking about a show continuing on, like what that could be. You know, the fact that they mentioned he's a drifter, so we mentioned he could be going from 10 to 10. But what if, like, we're also kind of pulling sort of a reverse Silence of the Lambs here, where, you know, Bishop feels uneasy about letting Harrison go. She can't pin anything on Harrison, but she's suspicious. And, you know, like, and she starts talking to Batista again because she has his information, you know, and they're trying to, like, and he's elsewhere, but they're trying to, you know, track him down or figure out what he's up to, or, you know, connect him to perhaps a spree of killings that are similar to what his father's done.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because if he's gonna have, if they do go beyond this season and Harrison is out there doing murders, yeah, he definitely needs. I could see Bishop going after him, assuming Bishop makes it out of the show.
Right,
Um,
because she doesn't seem to be a character that really lets anything go. We've never seen
yeah,
her let threads go like that.
maybe Harrison and Audrey kill Angela and they go off on the road.
Well, I don't,
Oh,
unless they like Thelma and Louise it, I don't think that it
yeah,
would go out like that.
I don't either.
Only because the beginning, well, more towards the beginning of the episode when they were doing Christmas, and he saw Harrison reacting well, and he saw, Angela and Audrey, and he felt like he was finally part of a family, and it felt right to him.
Mm.
As much as it wasn't just an act. When he finally had Harrison, who was his kid, in with this family, he appeared to finally feel like this is how it's supposed to be. So for him to for something like that to happen, uh would to me put it in the same kind of vein as the the end of the first Dexter, where it'd be controversial. And as long as I explained it, I wouldn't care one way or the other, but it would still be very odd and out of character almost.
He's gonna cut her head off.
And he puts it down with the other trophies.
Like I feel if we get a segue, it'll be, maybe Harrison leaving town and leaving a note for Audrey of some kind, and maybe Bishop was going to let it go until she sees that, and then she's like, "No, I can't. I can't let this kid, just be out there with the same tendencies that his father has." You know, just the investigator in her won't let that go.
Yeah, it typically. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, I feel Dexter's gonna go down, but I mean, people who've caught on to him in the past, it usually doesn't go well for them. But I think they're gonna wrap. I think they're gonna wrap up Dexter's story, and so yeah, I could see him dying or going to prison or something like that. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe not. Only one episode left, so any other thoughts on where they're going with this or on this episode before we wrap this up?
Only piggybacking kind of off of what you said, as far as it doesn't end well for people who find out. Um, Harrison's, I guess not stepmom, but stepmom, she knew Dexter. Deb knew Dexter, and they both. Well, we don't know about Harrison's mom still, or stepmom. I'm still kind of curious as to what really happened with her because I don't feel like that's what really happened. But uh, we have these characters that they're still showing that had bad endings, but it wasn't Dexter that did it. So that's why I'm not sure what will happen with Angela, but shit, who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to say, and when you mentioned her too, you also got me curious. I was like, oh yeah, we still don't have definitive answers about the stepmom. She may be alive because a lot of what Harrison said early in the season, those were lies. He was also playing close to the cuff. So
That is
if
true.
if the show continues on, that's a loose plot thread. I'm sure they're not going to address it next episode because I can't think of a way to address it next episode that's
Could,
not sloppy.
could you see her showing up?
If she shows up in some
And
way and
and
exotic,
he, what if he doesn't know that she's a killer, and
like,
she tries to clean up the situation?
yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
stupid.
yeah, he could mention that to his mom. His mom might poison Bishop, and yeah,
That'd
and it could go from there. That's true.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Because that was
Um,
her whole thing back in the day, wasn't it? Was she like a poisoner?
oh yeah.
yeah, yep. Because you're right. Harrison was very much not completely telling the truth early. Well, he was revealing things to Dexter in this episode. Yeah, I was hunting the Trinity killer. I was, yes, I did do that thing at the school. With the one kid, I forget his name. You know, so yeah, who's to say what all is truthful and not?
Well, you know,
Was his name Ethan?
Hawk?
Yes,
I
Ethan
don't.
Hawke.
Was Ethan Hawk?
Ethan Embry.
I don't remember.
Ethan Embry. Can't hardly wait.
it could end very much like another show that we, recently saw the finale of, and I'm not going to mention because I don't want to spoil it. But it's successful. Like Bishop could be,
Hawkeye.
yeah, it could end like Hawkeye, where Bishop's going to she's got him in the car. She's going to take Dexter, and she gets there. Everybody's dead because she's already put something in the vents or whatever when she gets to the station. I do feel like the section where he's taking the mug shots in the preview for next episode, like that's in his head because that was a very darkly lit scene. Unless that room is dirty and dingy, I think it was in his head.
Yeah, that definitely could have been to throw us off. Well, yeah, 100%. But yeah, I don't know. We'll find out very soon. Anything else?
No.
No, that's it for me.
All right. So yeah, tune in next week for our review of the season, hopefully season and not series finale of Dexter New Blood. Appreciate everyone listening, and we'll
Righteous
see.
Gemstones.
Yes, Righteous Gemstones coming up next week. We will be reviewing it. Look for that. Matter of fact, what day? It might be up now.
Comes out on Sunday.
Yeah. Okay, it'll be up in a week. All right.
Bye.
Bye.